Hi, I'm Derek, 32, and this past Thanksgiving, a plate full of gravy nearly became a felony assault weapon over mashed potatoes and a misunderstanding about spare rooms. In my family, holidays are a bit like potlucks with a dash of war strategy. Everyone brings something, a dish, a grudge, a passive-aggressive comment disguised as a compliment. My contribution this year? A store-bought pie and a boundary. Thanksgiving started normal enough. Loud, crowded, that distinct scent of overcooked turkey mixed with decades of unresolved tension. My mom, Lorna, had arranged everything down to military precision: plastic folding chairs in Tetris formation, paper napkins printed with smiling pumpkins, the triplets' high chairs double-belted like they were about to launch into space. Carla, my younger sister, was already deep in her hostess without a house act. She made the kind of entrance that said, "I'm in charge," even though technically, she wasn't even in her own kitchen. Hair curled, voice loud, one kid already sticky, one already screaming, and the third the quiet one holding my phone like he was solving a crime. "Look at Uncle Derek's nice shirt," she said to no one in particular, tone syrupy. "Too bad he doesn't have room for his family." I should have known. We hadn't even carved the turkey yet when she leaned across the table, knife in hand, and said, "So we'll be over Sunday. Just for a bit. You've got the space. I saw the pictures on Zillow. That spare room's perfect." I blinked. "That's my office." She tilted her head. "Offices can move. Kids can't." Mom chimed in without looking up from the green bean casserole. "Don't make it a thing, Derek. You can write at the table like Hemingway." Dad changed the channel on the TV again, louder this time. Cartoons for the kids, or maybe for himself. I set down my fork slowly, feeling the shift in the air. "I'm not doing this again." Carla's smile cracked just slightly. "Doing what?" "Letting you move in. You've lived with me twice, remember?" She waved that away. "That was different." "No," I said, more to myself than anyone else. "It was the same." There was a silence, a kind of pause the room knew too well. Then, in one quick movement, Carla picked up her plate, gravy, stuffing, half a roll, and flung it. It missed me by an inch and hit the wall behind me with a sound I'll hear in my dreams for the rest of my life. "You live alone with 2 bedrooms while we're drowning," she shouted. "You're disgusting." Mom didn't say anything at first. Then, quietly, like she was disowning me in a novel set in the 1800s, she said, "Don't call me your mom anymore if you're going to treat your family like strangers." Nobody moved. The kids stopped banging their spoons. Even the gravy looked offended. I stood up calmly, like I'd rehearsed this. Walked out onto the porch. Called my lawyer. "It happened," I said. "Just like you said it would. Activate the plan." Back inside, Carla's voice echoed from the kitchen. "He's calling the lawyer? On Thanksgiving?" I hung up and walked back in. No one noticed the blinking red light on the baby monitor camera still facing the dining room. But they would. I didn't sit back down. I stood by the coat rack, next to the front door, where the cold air from outside brushed my ankles and reminded me gently but clearly that I didn't have to stay. The silence inside was brittle. Carla glared, cheeks flushed, one triplet on her hip like a badge of sacrifice. Mom busied herself with wiping the counter furiously, as if scrubbing away the gravy would erase what just happened. Dad, still sunk into the couch, did what he always did, tuned out so hard it looked like hibernation. No one said a word. Then the baby monitor chimed. Just a little alert tone. Nothing dramatic. But the timing couldn't have been better if it had come with a choir of angels. The TV in the living room had been connected to it so the adults could keep an eye on the triplets playing in the den. But instead of giggles and toddler babble, a clear recording from earlier that afternoon began to play. Carla's voice. "If Derek says no, we'll just move in anyway. He melts when the boys cry." I froze mid-step. Then Mom's voice followed. "He'll forgive you. He always does. And if he gets loud, I'll tell the cousins he's having another breakdown. Worked last time." Aunt Teresa made a small sound, like a laugh got caught in her throat and died there. I didn't move. I didn't have to. That little red light on the baby monitor blinking steadily since morning had done all the work. Public space. Clearly marked. Recording legally. And now, accidentally broadcasting the truth over Thanksgiving dinner like it was breaking news. Carla lunged for the remote. Dad, to my eternal surprise, beat her to it. His hand trembled as he tried to pause the feed but only managed to rewind it louder. "I already used his card once," Carla's voice said again, gleeful. "He didn't even notice. Delete the alerts?" Mom replied. He doesn't check them. The baby monitor beeped once more. A second clip had uploaded. And this time, everyone's phones buzzed at once. The ding was almost musical. Nina, my lawyer, had emailed the whole family. Attached, a neatly organized PDF. Screenshots of messages. Text I'd sent politely declining to loan money. Suggestions for childcare resources. Links to food banks. Followed by their replies in the family group chat. Operation Guilt in full swing. Tell him the triplets cried. That always works. No commentary. Just receipts. Carla pointed a shaking hand at me. You set us up. I tilted my head. I brought pie. Mom opened her mouth, probably to pivot into something about forgiveness or stress or childhood trauma. But I cut her off with 3 words I never used lightly. This is enough. Her eyes flickered. Carla's jaw clenched. We're your family. I nodded. Yes. And I've loved you enough to nearly bankrupt myself. But love is not unlimited data. The room stayed quiet. For once, no one had anything to say. The moment cracked open like a dropped dish. Carla grabbed her coat with a ferocity that made the sleeves whip through the air. We're moving in Sunday, she said, voice breathless, desperate, like if she said it hard enough, it would become true. You're not, I replied, calm now in the way you only get when there's nothing left to argue. You returned your key. The locks are changed. Her head jerked toward Mom like a compass spun too fast. You have a copy. I did, Mom said quietly, something about her tone unsure now. I check your purse, I said. Mom's hand went to her bag like it had betrayed her. She dug through it, slow, like maybe the key had turned into a reasonable explanation. What she found instead was a folded note, written in Nina's tidy handwriting. Keys are not commitments. Mom froze. Her face flushed in slow motion, like a thermometer climbing on a summer sidewalk. You're unbelievable, she said, tone brittle. Better than unforgivable, I answered without bite. The triplets, bless them, picked that moment to start fussing. One wanted juice, one wanted attention, and one just wanted to scream for the art of it. Dad finally stood up, murmured something about dessert, and walked straight into the kitchen like it might offer a portal to another dimension. I reached for my coat. I'm leaving, I said. Before someone picks up a second plate. You can't just walk away. Mom snapped. This is your family. I don't feel safe here, I said, turning back. And safety matters more to me than tradition. Run away then, she hissed. I'm not running, I said, hand on the doorknob. I'm just walking somewhere that doesn't throw crockery at my face. As I opened the door, my phone buzzed. A message from Nina. Step 3. Ready. Want to proceed? I turned back to look at them, my sister shaking with rage, my mother blinking like a puppet without strings, and those 3 small boys, now clapping rhythmically for no reason at all, unaware their lives were about to change again. I took a breath and replied, yes. 7:13 a.m. The next morning, my doorbell rang like it owed rent. Not one polite chime. A full percussion performance. I didn't open it. I watched from the security feed on my phone, Carla, Mom, 2 rolling suitcases, and 3 bundled toddlers, looking like the world's saddest parade. They stood on my porch, waiting. Then the text started. Carla. We're outside. Let us in. Me, nothing. Carla again. We'll call the cops and say you're keeping our stuff. Me, finally. You have no stuff here. Mom went for the nuclear option family group chat. Your brother has locked his sister and her babies out in the cold. That's when Nina dropped a bomb into the thread. A formal letter, time-stamped and certified. They are not tenants. They have no permission to reside at my address. Any attempt to enter is unlawful. Fraudulent charges have been reported. Below that, screenshots of Carla's own text plans to change my locks, references to using my card. The chat went dead quiet. Then Aunt Teresa, always the sleeper agent, typed. Lorna, this is too far. Uncle Joe added. You can't just move into someone's house. My cousin Luke left the chat entirely. On the porch, Mom banged the door again. Carla's knuckles were white on the stroller handle. I pressed the intercom. Mom, I will help you find an emergency shelter with family rooms and drive you there myself. But I will not let you move in. Not again. You're heartless, she said, with the exhausted venom of a woman who thought love meant access. I have a heart, I replied. It's just not for rent. Carla didn't cry this time. She turned cold. The tears dried mid-cheek like someone flipped a switch. Her voice dropped to that flat, emotionless tone I'd only heard once before on the baby monitor clip where she'd casually planned to change my locks. "So it's war," she said. "It's not," I told her through the intercom. "It's a ceasefire with rules." She didn't reply. Just turned the stroller and walked back to the sidewalk, slow and stiff, like each step had something to prove. Mom stayed a moment longer, phone still in her hand, probably debating her next move. Then, with a tight jaw and a glance over her shoulder, she followed. 10 minutes later, the Facebook post went up. "Some people forget who rocked them as babies." The comments came quick. Most were hearts and sympathetic faces. Some were fire emojis. A few were public shame tosses. "Your son needs therapy. Can't believe he'd do that to his own family." My cousin Maya sent me a screenshot and just wrote, "You okay?" I didn't answer right away. I was doing something far less dramatic than Facebook made it seem. I was at my kitchen table, taping a note to the inside of my cabinet. Daycare cap, $500 per month. No cash transfers. No exceptions. Just below that, I taped a grocery list. Practical first, always. Nina had sent over more paperwork fraud reports, a notarized cease and desist to Carla's landlord, and a summary of every transaction linked to my account over the last 6 months. It read like a forensic file. The $79.99 game pack. The Uber rides. A few dozen. Oops, didn't realize it was your card. Slips of digital fraud. We filed everything. Then she called. 2 updates. Nina said, voice chipper like she wasn't sorting through my family drama like it was a legal crime scene. 1. Your bank reversed all unauthorized charges. 2. Best Value Auto admitted they were given an unofficial copy of your ID. They're backing off. I felt something in my chest unclench. It wasn't joy. It was air. I'd been holding my breath for weeks. "There's more," she added. Of course there was. She sent over a PDF, a scanned roommate agreement Carla had made herself. My name typed in. A signature that was supposed to be mine but looked like it had been drawn by a bored toddler with a ruler. "I didn't sign that," I muttered. "I didn't think so," she said. "Metadata shows it was created last week." But honestly, even without it, the baby monitor audio is enough to support a restraining order if they try anything else. "I don't want that," I said. "I just want it to stop. That's what restraining orders are for," she said gently. Stopping. The next day, I found out Mom had left a voicemail for my editor at the paper. She didn't yell. She played it calculated. "I'm concerned about Derek. He's been acting erratic. He shut his sister and her kids out in the cold. Might be worth checking on him. For his own good." My editor forwarded it to me with a one-line reply. "Take the afternoon off. We've seen worse. From mayors." I laughed. "The kind that comes from your stomach because your brain is too tired." Carla's landlord texted me that night, too. Just 5 words. "She's moving to a smaller unit." Then added, "We gave her a discount. Thought you should know." I stood in my kitchen, barefoot, clutching my phone like it might bite. Guilt tried to crawl up my spine like it always did. 3 toddlers. 1 bedroom. But then my bank app buzzed with a balance notification. Still intact. Still mine. No mystery withdrawals. The relief felt foreign, like good posture after years of hunching. That night, I sat on the floor with my laptop and made a list of who I could still be to them without becoming an open wound. I could pay for diapers. I could bring snacks to the park. I could fix a car seat. I could send links to subsidized housing programs. I could love my nephews without burning my life down for adults who mistake love for leverage. In the morning, I drove Carla to her nonprofit housing meeting. She didn't want to get in the car. She stood in my driveway with her arms crossed and said, "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I said, opening the passenger door. "I think boundaries make me better to you." She muttered all the way to the office, but she sat through the meeting. Filled out forms with that same clipped tone. Didn't look at me once. At the end, as we stepped out into the parking lot, she asked without looking, "Do the boys have to call you Uncle Derek, or can it just be Derek?" "Whatever they want," I said. She nodded once like it hurt. That Saturday, I went to the park. Not for some big reconciliation. Not for the dramatic final act of a family drama. Just because the triplets liked swings and I liked hearing them laugh without an invoice attached. Carla was already there, seated on the far bench, arms crossed like she was waiting for a sentencing. She had that look I knew too well, tight jaw, tired eyes, clothes clean but wrinkled. Pride worn like armor over exhaustion. She didn't wave. Neither did I. But the boys? They spotted me across the field and shouted like I'd walked in carrying Santa Claus on my back. "Dewick!" I crouched just in time for all three of them to tackle me at knee height. The smallest tried to climb my shoulder like it was Everest. The loudest shoved a crumpled granola bar into my hand like a peace offering. The third just wrapped his arms around my waist and sighed. "Hi," I said. Carla watched. Said nothing. I'd brought fruit slices, one of those foam soccer balls, and juice boxes with straws they'd inevitably chew into uselessness. We played. I let them win. One of them kicked the ball directly into my groin and apologized in the form of a leaf. By the time I made it over to the bench, Carla was finishing a text. She glanced up like she hadn't been waiting, and I didn't call her out on it. "They've been better," she said quietly. "Sleeping more. Less fighting." "That's good," I said. "I used the grocery card," she added. "Mostly on food. No shampoo or extras." "I didn't track it," I replied. She nodded, almost suspiciously. "Why not?" "Because I trust you to feed your kids." She looked away, jaw tightening. For 10 minutes we sat like that. Close but not together. Allies by circumstance. Bound by the 3 chaotic whirlwinds chasing ducks nearby. Then she surprised me. They offered me a spot in transitional housing. It's not amazing. But it's got a door that locks and no mildew in the kitchen. That's all I ever wanted, I said. For you to be safe. And for me not to be part of the cost. "I didn't mean to steal," she said suddenly, like the word had just hit her throat and slipped out before she could pull it back. "I know," I said. "You meant to borrow indefinitely." That earned a tiny laugh, grudging real. Carla sat back on the bench, face upturned, watching the sky like it might deliver answers if she stared hard enough. Then, quietly, she said, "You think Mom ever knew about how far I went?" I shrugged. If she didn't, it's because she didn't want to. She rubbed her hands together. "She's been quiet lately. Less bossy." "Yeah, well, sometimes when you stop responding to fire alarms, people stop pulling them." Another laugh. This one lasted longer. And when it faded, we just watched the boys together. There was a brief moment where everything felt almost normal. Then, as if summoned by irony, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Mom. "You made your point," she said in that voice that always sounded like a verdict. "I'm still angry, but the boys ate pasta tonight." Carla filled out the forms. "Someone dropped off a crib. You didn't come in and fix it like usual. And somehow, it got fixed anyway." Pause. "Don't call me your mom if you're going to be cruel," she added automatically, like a tick she couldn't turn off. Then softer, almost swallowed by static, "Bring the boys to the park on Saturday. If you want." I saved it. Not for legal reasons. Just because it was the first time in a long time she'd offered something that wasn't a debt disguised as love. After the park, I dropped off juice boxes and a bag of hand-me-down books. Carla didn't invite me in. I didn't ask. She stood in the doorway, watching the boys disappear into the apartment, then looked at me. "This doesn't mean we're good," she said. "I know," I replied. "It just means we're not bad right now." She closed the door halfway, then added, "You know, I still think you're an egoist." I smiled. "Sure. But now I'm an egoist with a front door that locks." She didn't smile back. But she didn't slam the door either. The piece held. Not perfectly. Not even gracefully. But it held the way a wobbly table does once you jam a folded napkin under the short leg. Stable enough to eat at. For now. I kept my distance. I showed up at the park, sent grocery gift cards that couldn't be converted to cash, forwarded Carla links to subsidized housing programs. When she asked for money, I said no and offered forms. When she said the boys needed shoes, I asked for sizes and had them shipped. It wasn't love like she was used to. But it was love. And it was mine to give. The calls from Mom slowed. The first few were still barbed. She opened with lines like, "I just think you've changed," or "I don't know who you are anymore." But when I didn't respond to the bait, the hooks started disappearing. Eventually, she called only about the boys. Then the weather. Then recipes, if you can believe it. Still, I didn't relax. You don't spend your entire life dodging guilt grenades just to forget there might still be landmines. Then, 3 weeks later, I got a text from my cousin, Jamie. Just a screenshot of a group chat I hadn't checked in months. It was Mom. Carla says Derek is hoarding money and won't help his own nephews. He's lucky I haven't told his job he's mentally unstable. Jamie added a single line. This is getting out of hand. Want me to say something? I told her no. Quiet is its own message. I didn't respond to Mom's text either. Instead, I wrote an email to the whole extended family. No rants. No rage. Just the facts, like a reporter should. Subject: setting the record straight. Hi everyone. Last month, I said no to letting my sister and her children move into my home. At Thanksgiving, a plate was thrown at me. A baby monitor accidentally recorded a conversation between my mother and sister in which they discussed changing my locks and using my credit card without permission. Those charges have been reported and resolved. Moving forward, I will not house adults. I will not be a co-signer or financial guarantor. I will not send cash. I will provide direct support for the boys when needed: daycare, diapers, groceries. If anyone attempts to involve my workplace, property, or finances again, I will pursue legal action. Thank you, Derek. The replies came in fast and divided. And Teresa. Proud of you. Uncle Joe. Let me know if Carla needs her couch stored. Cousin Maya. What do the boys need this week? And then, finally, Mom. You've shamed this family. I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but out of calm. Some silences are earned. Some are built brick by brick. Later that week, Nina emailed again. Best Value Auto officially dropped everything. The landlord got our letter. And you'll want to see this. She attached a roommate agreement, another one signed with my name. Or rather, an attempt at it. This one looked like a child trying to draw cursive for the first time. I didn't sign this, I said. I know. The metadata's already traced. But honestly, Derek? Between the audio from Thanksgiving and this forged form, if they try to re-enter your property again, it's enough for a restraining order. I still don't want to do that, I said, though it sounded weaker this time. I just want space. I want peace. Then protect it, she said. Space doesn't keep itself. That Friday night, I stood in my kitchen with a bowl of cereal at 10 p.m., lights off except for the one over the stove. The house was quiet in that sacred way single people know, no feet stomping overhead, no buzzing dryer, no low-level family chaos vibrating through the walls. It was mine. I had bought it. Painted it. Cleaned it. Patched holes from crayon-wielding children I didn't raise. I put down the spoon and just stood there. And breathed. Nothing was leaking. Nothing was draining. For the first time in what felt like years, there were no slow money bleeds happening in the background of my life. I wasn't being guilted, manipulated, or emotionally influenced. And that silence? That was the sound of surviving my own family. On Monday, I drove Carla to meet with the nonprofit caseworker. She didn't want to get in the car. She stood in the driveway, arms folded, wearing exhaustion like a coat. The boys were strapped into a double stroller plus one, like puzzle pieces forced to fit. I waited. No speeches. Just stillness. Eventually, one of the triplets whined and kicked his shoe off, and she gave up the standoff. This doesn't make us okay, she muttered, climbing in. It just means you're not a monster. Close enough, I said. The office was plain, carpeted in that industrial beige that looks like it eats dreams. We sat across from a woman with a ponytail and a cardigan covered in coffee stains. She had that calm, government-trained voice that makes you think you're at the DMV for your soul. She asked Carla questions. Carla answered with shrugs. Then came, "Who's been your main support?" Carla pointed at me. "The egoist." The woman didn't flinch. "He's here," she said. "Egoists don't usually show up." We didn't talk much on the way home. The boys fell asleep in the back seat, their heads tipping onto each other like dominoes. Carla stared out the window, arms crossed, but softer now. When I pulled up to her building, she unbuckled slowly. "Do they have to call you Uncle Derek?" she asked. "Or can it just be Derek?" "Whatever they want," I said. She hesitated, then nodded once and climbed out. That night, I got a voicemail from Mom. Her voice was quiet. "You made your point. I'm still mad. But the boys ate pasta." Carla filled out forms. "People brought a crib. You didn't come in and fix it like usual, and it still got fixed." Then after a pause, Don't call me your mom if you're going to be cruel. Then, almost inaudible. Bring the boys to the park Saturday. If you want. I saved the message not as proof, but as hope. Hope that maybe, slowly, we were all learning what love meant without cost. Love with boundaries. With choice. And finally, with peace.